Hi, Sydney. Welcome to the podcast, You Reach for the Stars. Please tell our listening audience your name and the city you're in.
Hi, I am Sydney Shepard, and I'm living in San Diego, California.
All right. Before we get started with the theme of the podcast, I would like to take this time to congratulate you on your success in the world of academia. Did you know that only 13.1% of people have a master's or doctorate, and only 9% of Americans have one? Did you know that?
So I didn't know the exact numbers, but I did know that it was a small percentage, yeah.
Well, you're in a very special class, a very special group, and definitely wanted to give you some congratulations for that, and wanted to find out how you were able to continue. I mean, it says it takes about 1 to 3 years to get a master's, but what about the other years of the associates and the bachelors? About how many years did it take, Sydney?
It takes a long time. So my bachelor's was 4 years, which took me a little bit longer because I actually switched schools a couple times due to just the financial issues and personal issues.
Okay.
So it took me about 5.5-ish to get my bachelor's done. And then my first dream was to go to law school. So I had tried my hand at that as well. So then I chose an accelerated path, meaning I wanted to complete my master's with no breaks. I didn't take any semesters off. And I took a full workload the entire time. So I did my master's in about 16 months. But that's not normal. Usually it's about a 2-year program.
Okay.
But because people take the summer off, I didn't take the summer off, and I just worked straight through.
Okay. Now, income, getting the money for all that, did you get loans? They tell me sometimes people work for the universities, or, a lot of loans were taken out. What did you do?
Yeah, I did the loans. It is a lot of money. I did go to a more prestigious school. I went to University of Southern California. So they are a pretty expensive program. So I did the loans, and I had to live off loans as well. So I had loans paying for school, and I had loans to pay for my living expenses to cover all of that. Now, I will say, for me personally, and it depends on when you took your loans out, I'm a part of a program called Public Service Loan Forgiveness. What that means is I am a public servant. I work for the government. I've worked for the government starting in 2016. And being a part of that program, I will get my loans forgiven and completely forgiven, all money owed, once I work for the government for 10 years, making my payments for 10 years. Okay. So for me, it's going to work out. I know there has been some changes to that program. In the last, I think it started with the Trump administration. He changed that program. So there's now a cap on how much they'll forgive you for. But because I'm grandfathered into the program, there's no cap for me. So all my loans will be forgiven. So I did have that understanding when I signed for my loans that I would be able to get forgiven as long as I entered the public service workforce
with the government.
And worked government for 10 years. So they do have different programs like that. Some jobs will forgive your loans. And also a few of my friends were able to get their master's degrees working. They were actually working for CPS. This is back when I worked for CPS. And they got their master's paid for.
Oh, boy.
Because, they got their master's paid for because the government wants more qualified, more formally educated employees. And so they're actually sending people to school and paying for that. So there's also ways to get it paid for if you're scared of the money.
Awesome. Were you specializing in any field particularly?
Yes. So my master's is in social work, often called an MSW. And my focus was mental health. So diagnosing, treating, making recommendations for treatment for those who are suffering from serious mental illness. Think bipolar, schizophrenia, personality disorders, of that antisocial personality disorder, things of that nature that really impact people's lives. I was more focused on those things. And I used that in my work. So I worked, as I said before, a CPS social worker. I was an investigator and a case carrying social worker, working on the back end and helping make case plans and reuniting families who had entered the system. And now I'm actually working as a probation officer with the federal government. And what I'm doing is I'm making sentencing recommendations for those that have been convicted of a federal crime and are facing prison time in federal prison. So the specialties, it can go across disciplines because mental health affects everything.
Right. Exactly.
Your behavior, the decisions you make, whether it be to commit a crime, whether it be to abuse a child, neglect a child, whatever it is, your mental health is involved. I guarantee you, whether it be you're going through some depression, you're stressed out, you're not handling stress well, you had some trauma in your life that's led to bad decisions or substance abuse. There's some mental health involved there. So I've just been able to use that discipline across the board in all of my positions.
Awesome. Tell me this, the tennis player, Osaka, now she, having a mental breakdown and stuff and needed some time away because of some mental problems. Would she be somebody like that you would counsel like?
Absolutely. She's talking about experiencing anxiety, which is understandable because she's on a world stage. The entire world is watching her. And so a little bit of anxiety, maybe even a lot of anxiety, is going to be kind of normal for her.
Right.
But obviously it becomes an issue when it impacts your daily life, your routine, your ability to communicate, your ability to engage and interact with the world around you. So obviously if she's struggling with that to that point where she can't really engage in her work the way she needs to,
right,
then counseling could absolutely benefit her.
Okay. Did you find that all that you learned in school when you got out, the world was a little different than what they taught you? I mean, was it different what you were taught when you got out in the world, you saw something else?
Yeah, absolutely. Coming into the world and working, especially because of much of my experience has been with those who are in crisis.
Right.
CPS, you get your kids taken away. You're in the middle of this huge crisis, working. My first job was a halfway house, people coming out of jail, coming out of prison, on probation, on supervised release. Right now, I'm clearly working with people who are facing jail time and prison time in federal prison. Right. So I'm constantly working with those that are in crisis. And what I'm looking at is we talk a good game in this country about mental health. And right, mental health is so important and we need it and we got to focus on it and we got to help people. But the resources are not there.
No resources. The
resources are not there, not for the real kind of mental health people need. When you talk about real mental health treatment, people need, one, it takes time to really even engage in mental health treatment. I mean, I will share my own personal journey with mental health treatment. After my mother passed, I began to engage in therapy. And so for me, before you really start to take hold, you're going to be in therapy for at least 6 months. There are not a lot of programs out there that give people access to long-term therapy, consistent therapy that will actually impact their lives and behavior. So we have these kind of crisis therapeutic treatment modalities where you're going in, you're seeing a therapist for maybe 1, 2, 3 sessions, and they're going to try to give you some quick coping skills you can use, but you don't have time to put them into practice. You don't have time to come back to your therapist and say, hey, this coping skill didn't work for me. This one did. You don't have time to sort of build that rapport with your therapist to even trust them enough to want to open up and tell them what's really going on with you. So we talk a good game about really providing resources, but I don't think we understand what those resources need to look like. People need long-term treatment. If you've been traumatized since childhood, some of the people I'm dealing with now on federal probation, these people have been abused since childhood. They've been using drugs since childhood. If you think some quick,
6
1
months.
month, 2 months, whatever therapy is going to help them, it's not. They need 6 months, a year, 2 years. They
Right.
need real time with a therapist, consistently working with them. Or they need maybe even medical intervention. i.e. medication, depending on how deeply their traumas are, depending on how their brain's been affected by drugs, depending on if they have a diagnosis of schizophrenia or something where they are experiencing hallucinations and things of that nature. You don't know, depending on what they're going through, they may even need some medication, and all that takes time to assess that. And then to really get that treatment going and to build that rapport and get the client invested in the treatment as well, because they've been shuffled through the system. So they don't trust the system.
Right.
They don't trust that we're there to help them. So you've got to build that rapport and that trust with them, which that takes time. So the resources are, let me rephrase, resources are available, but they're inadequate.
Okay.
We need better resources.
So they seem to be shining a light on mental health now. Do you think it's enough light being shined on it? Do you think the call is out there for people to do more, or do you think that more needs to be done? I know you said more needs to be.
More needs to be done. I mean, let's go back to Naomi. Look at how they're treating her. I mean, she came forward with her mental health issues, and you're seeing it become politicized, which I don't understand. Right. You're seeing people attack her and say, "Oh, you're just weak. You're mad. You're lost. Just put your big girl panties on and just do it." And like there's no grace. There's no compassion for her. She's coming forward and she's saying, "I am mentally struggling, and we're just all going whatever." And not all of us, but that's the conversation. If you go, I mean, I don't know how tuned in you are to social media, but I'm on Twitter and stuff, and when I see the reactions to her coming forward, they're just getting a lot of negativity coming her way. And so we can't say we're really sounding the alarm on mental health in this country when we're attacking her for coming forward and trying to destigmatize mental health. That's especially important for us in the Black community, where we struggle with our mental health and just don't talk about it and just suck it up and deal with it. And then it comes out in different ways. It's our family units and criminality and all the things that we're seeing in our community. So it's like we're talking out of both sides of our mouth, right? In this country, we're saying mental health is really important. And if you need help, we're going to be there for you. But then we go and make fun of Naomi when she comes forward, she says, "I need help." Right. So I can't say things are changing when I see how people are reacting to Naomi. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So it definitely has to get a lot better. When your mom passed, and what was it that you were going through that you felt? Did you feel like you just wanted to give up with life or studying, or what was it that you felt?
It's hard to put it all into words. It's obviously a sadness. I mean, that's the first thing. Right. Sadness, grief. Right. And there was a little piece of me that kind of felt like I wanted to give up. Yeah. I felt, not like in a suicidal type way, but more in a, what's life? What are we doing here? I've just witnessed this huge moment in my life. My mom has passed away, and, my mom battled cancer for over 10 years. So it was hard to watch that from start to finish with her. I can imagine. And just see how much life can take out of you and take from you, and you didn't really get to live and do the things you wanted, the things that mattered to you. There was so much that she wanted to do that she did not get to do. Right. And so when I looked at that, it put me in a place mentally of, am I living the life I want to live? Like if something were to happen to me, have I lived the life I want to live? And that became my biggest issue of, I don't want to lose my life or get sick and have regrets, because I think that was what bothered me the most, is when my mom did pass, I knew she passed wanting to have done more.
So does that inspire you to live life more fuller and do things now that you want to do and might have thought about doing, but now you're going to do?
Oh, yeah. I went and I got my passport. I plan on traveling the world and seeing the world. That's something my mom was really passionate about. Right. I've been telling my friends, like, we've got to, it can't just be go to work, come home, pay bills. And that was really my life. And I think that's what kind of bothered me coming into my mother's passing the year before she passed. That was actually my life. I was working a very stressful job at CPS. I wasn't getting home most days until 8, 9, 10 o'clock. I was eating horribly, had gained a ton of weight. I was depressed. I wasn't dating. I wasn't going out. I mean, literally my life was work, home, sleep, work, home, sleep, work, home, sleep. And then I went into the tumultuous year of my mom passing, and that took about a year of her declining and then passing. And then I came out of all that, and I just was like, this can't not be the rest of my life. I cannot just go to work, come home, and do it all again every single day. I've got to go and figure out what it is I want, what's going to make me happy, you know? And so for me, I've started traveling to Cabo. I'm going to Jamaica later this year. I'm going to plan a trip to Bali at some point. There's some places I want to go. Eventually, I want to get to Australia. I want to get to Europe. You know, obviously COVID shut a lot of that down. So it's been pushed back, but things are, you know, I'm realizing that there are things I really want to do, and I'm not going to let life stop me. I'm going to, you know, whatever it is, I'm going to save my money. I'm going to figure it out. I've got a job where, you know, I get vacation time, so I plan on using it. I remember when my mom, you know, obviously it turned out to be a good thing, but when my mom passed, I had hundreds of hours of sick and vacation time that I hadn't used because I had been working so much. And so I had all these hours. And so again, thankfully I had them because I needed them for her to travel. But at the same time, I realized also what that means is I wasn't living my life. I was at work every day. Even though I needed a break, I needed a vacation.
Wouldn't even take off. Yeah.
So I wasn't.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I wasn't living. That just went to show me even more like you were not living your life. And that's why, you know, I actually went into that year of my mom's decline and passing already a little bit depressed, not even realizing it. And then it made it worse once she got really sick. So, you know, all of that was combined. And so that's why now my thinking is so different when it comes to life. And I actually can credit my brother Jordan to that as well. He's always telling me, Sydney, go live, go have fun, go out, do your thing. Like he's very encouraging of that. And, you know, I think we both kind of learned that lesson that, you know, life's too short. You just don't know, you know, how much more time you got. And this can't be, you know, bills and responsibilities. It's important. Don't get me wrong. I pay my bills, but you know, that can't be everything. That can't be everything.
Well, you know, I've always believed that when people pass, when people die, I believe they leave some of their life force behind. And I believe they leave that life force behind to encourage us to live and do the things that they could not do. You're the perfect example of when somebody leaves, they leave some of their life force behind. And it is to empower us, to encourage us to do what they can no longer do. So, you're doing the right thing. That is an awesome thing you're doing. Now with the new job you have and dealing with convicts and criminals and people that are behind in the jail, what is it? Can you make a difference? Has this been the job that you're in? I guess they've been doing this before. It's not a new position. So, so is this something that you feel you can make a difference in?
I'm hoping so. That's why I took this job. So just to explain a little bit about what I do, I'm a probation officer with the United States government, and I am I'm an investigator. Okay. So basically what happens is someone's been convicted of a crime in federal court. And now the judge needs a recommendation on how much time they should get. So there's a statute that says this crime can be punished upwards of 25 years in prison. So that's between 0 and 25 years. So how does the judge decide how much time they should get? That's where I come in. Okay. I investigate your life. I investigate your childhood, your upbringing, your family, your socioeconomic status, your employment history, your mental health, anything, all of it. I investigate as much as I can, your physical health. I talk to you about your motivation. Why did you commit this crime? What happened? I take all that information, I put that in a report, and based on what I know about you, based on what you told me, what I've investigated, what I've talked to about with your family and other people that you've given me permission to speak with, I put together a recommendation on how much time you should get. And why is that important? Well, let's think about it for a second. Look at all the sentencing disparities we see amongst Black and white people.
Exactly.
Look at all the sentencing disparities you see between rich and poor people in this country. Yes. So I'm supposed to be that sort of that equilibrium, right? That's where I come in and I say, listen, we're going to make a recommendation based off of really what happened, right? If we've got, say, for example, we got someone crossing the border with drugs. That happens a lot here. I live in San Diego. Mexico's about 30 minutes from me.
Gotcha.
So we have a lot of people who cross over the border with drugs for money because the cartels will pay you lots of money if you do it.
Exactly.
So, okay, at first glance, that crime looks like a, black and white, cut and dry, send to jail. But let's say we got a man who crossed over the border with drugs. They were gonna pay him $10,000. What did he need it for? He's got a wife in the hospital with COVID and no insurance, and he needs to pay the medical bills, right? Mm-hmm. Now, my job is to say, you know what, Your Honor, please take that into account. Right. This is not a hardened criminal. This is not a thug. Right. This is not an evil person. Exactly. This was a desperate person. This was someone who needed help in the community, and the system wasn't there to help them the way he needed. And so he found a way to help himself, and it was wrong. But this is not someone that you throw in jail and you lock away the key and you forget about. This is someone who can come back into society, who can be a good citizen, who can live a good life, be a productive citizen, and deserves a second chance, right? Because a lot of people, you go back in the 90s and the early 2000s, we weren't giving second chances. We weren't looking at people's lives. Why did you commit this crime? A lot of crimes are committed out of desperation. A lot of crimes are committed out of just not having another way out, just fear, the financial desperation. So my job is to get the judge to realize the person standing before you is a human being. And they deserve a second chance. So, not everyone does deserve a second chance. Some people don't. But for those that do, that's where I come in to try to advocate for them and get them second chances.
So you bring the compassion.
Yeah.
Right. That sometimes it seems like they show no compassion when they sentence them to life and all these long years in prison. Judges show no compassion. Apparently the attorneys for them sometimes show no compassion. So it's good. They need somebody like you that's going to bring in some compassion and tell the judge about it. Yeah. That is needed.
Yeah, that's what I do. I give the judge just a bigger picture, right?
Gotcha.
Back in the day, you just had the judge, you had the crime that was committed, and we're going to give you this many years. And they didn't look at anything else. They didn't look at the motivation behind the crime. They didn't look at that person's upbringing. Does this person understand that there are other ways to make money? Some people don't. You believe it or not, there are people whose mama was a criminal, daddy was a criminal, my brother's a criminal. That's all they know. So back in the day, judges didn't care about any of that. It was just all, here's what you did. Mm-hmm. Here's the time I'm going to give you. That's it. Right. And so we're bringing a more complete, a more humanistic approach, in my opinion. Right. We're telling the judge, look at this person, look at everything.
Exactly.
Look at everything that went into this crime in this moment, and then sentence off of that.
Awesome.
And really trying to also address the disparities too, because there's such a racial disparity and a rich and poor disparity when it comes to sentencing. And we're trying to also address that as well and be consistent in how we sentence people as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I don't know if they have a lot of Black people that do what you're doing now. I mean, I would think that most of them are probably white people that do what you're doing now. Do you see a lot of people like you that look like you that's doing what you're doing?
No. So there's only 3 in my office.
See? Of total what? They could have 50 or 25 or?
I think there's about 50, 60 of us.
Unbelievable.
And there's about three Black people there.
Unbelievable. See? I mean, I've been on jobs where I'm the first Black they've seen, or, one of very few. And so when you get in that position, then it's almost like not only are you representing maybe your client, but you almost representing your race.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've definitely felt that way before, for sure. My last job, I was one of two Black girls, and then one of us left. So I was the only Black girl in the office. And so I saw it in the way the African American inmates would look at me.
Oh, I'm
because
sure.
they would immediately be like, oh, okay, you're going to understand me. You're going to understand my culture. You're going to understand where I come from.
Right.
And it's just a difference. It really is. And they feel more seen and more heard. And so that's part of the reason why I stay in this field. Yeah. I get, some Black people are like, why are you messing with the criminal justice system? Like it's crooked and whatever. And I understand that feeling. And the criminal justice system needs a lot of reform, but you're not going to reform it on the outside. Just talking. Right. We got to get in here and get in the system and start working in the system. Now all of that is in the system.
Exactly.
Because I brought it with me to the system.
Right. So that makes, your position even more valuable, and what you do is even more valuable to, our people, to the Black people, to the, it's definitely needed because we have very little representation. So technically, if you were to get finished with the government work, you could have your own business as someone that treats people with mental problems?
Yes, I am actually working toward right now getting my license. Okay. I get my license. My title would be Licensed Clinical Social Worker, LCSW. I'm currently halfway through that process. It takes about 2.5 to 3 years, depending on how fast you can go. Okay. So I'm currently about halfway through the process of doing that. And once I do that, I will begin to work toward building my own clientele and being able to provide therapy in a private practice type setting. But I'm just working towards that. So absolutely.
That'd be perfect. I mean, especially with Black people really not wanting to go and talk to people. And a lot of times, most of them don't look like them. So to be able to go and talk to somebody about your problems with somebody that looks like you is going to be a powerful thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That is truly great. That is truly great. So it looks like your destiny is it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. The theme that also runs through my show, my podcast, is sometimes people have prophecies. Somebody, friends, strangers, relatives can come up to people and say, I see something in you. I see this light in you. I feel that you're going to do these great things in the world. Did anybody tell you that? Or did you just feel you wanted to do great things? Or how did you choose to climb in life and not give up?
Oh man, it's a tough question. Well, you know what? I would say it's definitely started with you and Mom. You guys were always very clear about how important education was. So that was, I guess, where it started. I valued education. I understood that it was something that would benefit my life because I had parents who told me that and pushed me towards educational achievement. And so I wasn't that kid that like, oh, school's lame or I hate school. Like I understood school's important. I value this. This is going to be a skill. It's going to help me. So I had a very good attitude toward education and understanding that it was going to benefit me because my parents made sure to make that clear to me and just hammered it in me, So there was that piece of it. And then I just realized at some point, like I wanted more, I wanted to make my family proud, but I also wanted more for my life. I wanted to make an impact in my community, So there was my family telling me how important it was, pushing me forward. And obviously my faith as well, because I had a lot of issues happen when it came to college. Like the finances fell through a couple times and things got hard with my mom actually got diagnosed with cancer my freshman year. So I was at Baylor. I left Baylor and moved to Georgia with her to try to help her out. So things kept happening, but somehow God kept making a way. So I left Baylor to go move to Georgia to help my mother, applied to her old alma mater, Wesleyan College, and they hit me with a academic scholarship. Good God. So it was I did that. And so I was like, here I was not even expecting to go to this school. I applied on a whim because I was in Georgia to transfer and I got a scholarship right off the bat. So things like that where it's like, I kind of knew I was on the right path because the doors never quite closed. Right. Everything I kept everything I needed, it kept
Yeah.
getting provided. You know, my grandfather, he was really important in my life, and financially, he was really there to, you know, books, you know, needing books and textbooks and stuff and supplies for school. And, you know,
Beautiful.
he was always there to sort of make that happen for me. And
Beautiful.
so, I really feel like I really credit my family, my whole family, from my parents growing up when I was kids to even Jordan encouraging me when I was struggling, to my grandparents spoke that in me and just kept pushing me. They say, I feel like you guys saw something in me before I ever really saw anything, because there was never a time that I was allowed to give up. It was like, we're going to figure this out. You're going to get back in school. You're going to get your degree. You're going to do this. Like, that was just always made clear to me. And there was never a moment where people said, you know what, Sydney, it might not be the time for you to do this. Like, that never was said. Like, it was always like, you're going to do it. We're going to make it happen.
Right.
But that was who really spoke it into me, for sure, my family.
Well, it seems that the path that you chose, and truly God was watching you, because it's needed. It's needed so much. Not only was it needed back then, it's needed even more now. And that you were able to stay on the path, to stay on the trail and get it done. You know, that is so awesome. And especially when there are so few of you that do what you do. That made it now. I mean, once you get into places where you see you might be one of 50, that shows how much more you were needed. And so it should validate even more that what you did was something almost bigger than you.
Yeah.
And the people that you will help. And when they see you, the light that you will, you know, light up in them, that maybe I have a chance because somebody actually understands what I'm going through.
Yeah,
Wow.
Absolutely.
That is powerful. That is powerful. There's a few other things that I do on this podcast. And one is I usually have some questions, and it's about, the question is like, what would you do? And I have a friend, and he had 3 kids, 2 boys and 1 daughter. And so every year, as they were growing, he would give them money for their birthday, you know, 5 years, 10 for 10 years, whatever. And so when his daughter became 20, and he gave her $20, and she looked at it and says, "Is this all you giving me?" And then he opened the envelope and said, "I had $200 in here, and I would have gave you that if you had just shut up and accepted that." And so now they don't talk. He believes she's a money grabber. And I told him I thought that was kind of a bad thing to do. What do you think about that?
Oh, man. I'm kind of torn on that one. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to end my relationship with my child over that. Like, you can express your disappointment and say, hey, I had wished that, you know, you had been grateful. But certainly that's not worth not speaking to your child over. At the same time, on the other side of it, if someone's giving you a birthday gift, whatever it is, how big or small, there should be some grace and some gratefulness there. Just a thank you is what's, you know, if you need extra money, of course, you can say, hey, Dad, you know, if you don't, I know if you have, I know things might be tight, but would you mind give me a little extra something, you know, if you can, and you can have that conversation. I think that's a miscommunication to me on that part, because I can see both sides, right? It's the daughter's like, I'm 20 years old, you know, $20 at 20.
Right. She felt she was a woman. She grown, right?
It's a little tight. I'm not gonna lie. Like, yeah, you want a little something more when you're 20. You know, you want to be able to go out, get your nails done, your hair done, all that. That costs money nowadays.
There you go.
So I see where she's coming at, but that's also the way you communicate it is the issue, right? It's how you do it. So for me, I would have expressed myself a little bit better if I was her. I would have started out with a thank you. I appreciate you giving me this birthday gift, but if you got a little something extra, can you hit me up? You know, with some extra. And then if I was the father, I would have expressed my disappointment differently and been like, you know, I'm giving you a gift. This is a birthday gift from my heart. Like, you know, let's not be so rude about it. But if you need something extra, you can ask me and we can talk about that later. But this is your birthday gift for now. And so I just would have expressed myself differently on both sides and had a better communication style. Well,
it's definitely been going on for years that he has not talked to her, said he will never talk to her again. I think that's bad. I'm hoping that before he leaves the planet, You know, he's 72, just turned 72. I hope that he would, patch up that relationship and,
Me
be
too.
be the bigger person, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, you're the dad. I mean, you have to be bigger than that. I mean, this is, someone you created,
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. You should reach out. Yeah, it's not worth walking away from the relationship for. Not over that.
there you go. There you go. Another question. Do you think relationships can survive infidelity? Now, not, and it's probably different when you're going just dating somebody and y'all supposed to be going together and they mess around on you. You can either leave or accept it. But when you're married, it's a little different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's totally different. Yeah, I mean, it's not acceptable. If you're married, that's what marriage is. It's exclusivity. It's faithfulness. It's there adultery, infidelity, all that. That's a red line for me. Really, in any exclusive relationship, even if I was just dating someone, if you're going to be unfaithful,
Right.
that's not. I don't want to continue with you because I don't want to bring that into my marriage with you. If you're going to be unfaithful to me now, there's no reason for me to think that you would not do that in my marriage. So, and then if you're married and you're unfaithful, I mean, that's just a violation of the entire marriage. Like, I mean, that's just, it's the second commandment. Come on.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
it's pretty
Yep.
up there. It's like, don't kill anybody. Don't cheat on your husband or wife. Like, it's like the number two.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's a red line where if you cross that, it's done for me. But you know what I've been seeing? Me and my friends have been having this conversation over and over again, and relationships are taking on such a weird and different turn nowadays to where I'm single and trying to date. And so I do the online dating thing. And I cannot tell you how many profiles I'm coming across of married couples. They're in the profile together, like husband and wife.
Come on.
And they are seeking a third partner.
No.
And seeking to explore and have,
Right.
extra partners in their marriage. And so I'm like, what is going on with that? And now you have what's called a polyamorous, where people are married but still dating because they don't believe in monogamy. But like, I love you and we'll get married and have our unit, but we can both go outside the unit and do our thing and date around. So I'm seeing that. I'm seeing, open relationships now. So I think we've kind of lost as a society what marriage is supposed to be.
There you go.
For me, I'm very traditional. It's one man, one woman.
Right.
Well, I mean, if you're gay, whatever, do your thing. Like, you could be married. I don't have a problem with that. But but for me personally, I'm saying it's a man and a woman, and it's that's it. There's no extra people involved unless we have kids. That's it. But the marriage is just me and you.
Because when you start bringing in other people like that, then somebody could say they like the other person instead of you. And so, you're bringing in more drama in your marriage than you should.
Yeah.
But that's what's happening out there, huh?
Yeah, I'm seeing it. It's right on. They're just posting it right online. Like, or they'll say, or sometimes I'll see a profile. It would just be a man in the pictures, but he'll say in his bio, what is their saying? They say ethically non-monogamous. What that means is, like, I guess I'm cheating on my wife, but she knows I'm cheating.
Okay. She's accepted it. She's allowed it.
Yeah.
Good God Almighty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, the world is definitely changing out there. I'm old school, so I don't want to be bringing anybody else involved because I don't think that's going to help anything in the long run.
Not at all.
You might think it's a short time fix, but in the long run, it's going to destroy some things,
Yeah, for sure.
Unbelievable. Well, it has been awesome having you on,
Thank you.
And Sydney, I want you to know that we as a family will be watching you, and the world is watching you because you are really needed because there are so few of what you do. So I believe God has something in store for you, and I can see it by the steps that you've been able to take. And so I want to thank you for coming on. You reach for the stars because it's what you do and it's who you are. And I'm definitely not going to be surprised by the things you do in the future.
Thank you so much. I've loved being here. This is awesome.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely. And I will be keeping in touch with you. And as you grow in your business and your field, I'd like to hear some of the stories and some of the things that you can talk about. Okay?
Yeah, for sure.
Enlighten the world about something that we don't know anything about, and about we see so much suffering of Black people in the system. And it would sure be nice to get some good stories of the people in the system. So definitely help our people as much as you can. All right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the plan.
There it is. I know that's right. That's the plan. Well, it's a great plan. And I will definitely be watching. So thank you very much for being on the show.